Hello and welcome to Hello Malaysia, and I am your host Suryati Sanusi, and today we are basically celebrating International Mother Language Day, which is celebrated annually on 21st of February. And to talk about this today, I have brought in Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Nik Safia Karim, and she's the advisor from Linguistic Society of Malaysia. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, like I mentioned, it's about International Mother Language Day. I mean, this is for the first time I'm hearing this.
Yes.
Basically, I'm not really sure what International Mother Language Day is all about. Probably Professor could tell us. But before that, can we get to know you a little bit?
Yeah.
So, a little bit on your background.
Yeah. I'm a linguist by profession.
Okay.
And I used to teach at the University of Malaya, professor of linguistics. Specifically Malay linguistics.
Okay.
They asked me, where have I been working all these years?
Okay.
Yeah, except for 3 years when I was in the States to do my PhD, I was at the University of Malaya.
Really? Okay.
All along,
so all this while in the
all
University of
while,
Malaya.
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe slightly over a year, I was seconded to Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka as a Deputy Director General. But other than that, it's all there.
Right.
In the University of Malaya campus.
What makes you think? What makes you want to go into Bahasa Malaysia or to learn Bahasa Melayu?
Yeah, actually, I didn't even take Bahasa Melayu for Form 6.
Okay.
I took English. And throughout my education, it was in the English language.
Yes.
Because we moved.
Those time, English language was in the school.
It was before independence.
Yes.
So primary school. Secondary school, all in the English language, but the Malay language was already being processed to take over. But when I went to the university, it was still in English.
In English, so you didn't have that transition.
That's right. My degree was Bachelor of Arts.
Okay. So what makes you want to to learn more about Bahasa Melayu?
Well, it's the love of the language.
Okay.
Well, I used to tell that I'm the youngest in the family.
Okay.
2 elder sisters, then a gap, and 2 elder brothers. You know, brothers don't play around with their sisters.
Okay.
So I was left all alone with my father's, cupboard of books and magazines.
Okay.
So I was reading those. I was reading in Jawi. I was reading in
Rumi.
Not so many English books.
Okay.
But I was enjoying the reading.
Okay.
And then when I went to school, I was fortunate enough to have good English literature teachers.
Okay.
So I was introduced to good literature and introduced in a very good manner.
Right.
Plus drama classes.
Right.
And good English language teachers.
Do you still remember what was your first literature book that you read?
Well, I remember that we took 2 years to finish Great Expectations.
Okay. Right.
And Great Expectations by Charles Dickens is not an easy book to read.
It is not.
Yes. So the teacher was from England. Native speaker of English, and she enjoys teaching.
And you enjoy listening to her.
And I enjoyed listening. And since then, I enjoyed reading.
Right.
So I was really enjoying English literature.
Okay.
And enjoying the linguistic element.
Okay.
So that's why when I just entered the university, I did Malay studies, economics and geography, and discovered that I like one of the subjects. It's called linguistics.
Okay.
We studied Malay linguistics, Malay literature, Malay culture. And I enjoyed it. And then when I passed my first year, I went and asked, can I major in Malay studies?
Right.
Without a principal in, HSC.
But because you've been exposed to English literature since school, and then you only exposed to the Malay literature probably in colleges.
Yes.
So do you find it different? Do you find it harder?
No. A love of language is the same in any language.
Okay.
In fact, you transfer whatever you learn, from one language to the other.
Right.
So I begin to appreciate my language.
Okay. Which is Malay studies.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's when second year onwards, I just went into linguistics. Linguistics is not Malay per se, it's the science of the language.
Okay.
And then you apply whatever language using the science of the language.
I see. Okay. Now back to our topic, which is International Mother Language Day. So basically, what is it about? I mean, I think it's a day where we should be proud
yes.
of our own mother language, which means in Malaysia we have Bahasa Melayu, we have Mandarin Tamil. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The key word is mother tongue or mother language. Is your first language. The language that you are born into.
Right. The family speaks
The family speaks to you and it's your community. But it doesn't have to be, similar to the
race.
To the race, yes.
Okay.
Say somebody from an English family but adopted by a Malay family.
Right.
And from day one.
Right. Speaking Malay.
Speaking Malay.
Right.
That would be her first language.
Right. And I think back in those days, there's a lot of Malay family who has Chinese children. They adopted Chinese.
And became really part of the family.
Right. So that will be, so whatever you were born to a family which speaks the language, that is your mother language.
That is your mother language.
Okay.
Yes.
So now by celebrating the International Mother Language Day is for you to embrace your mother language.
To recognize the fact that mother tongue is very important.
Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, today's world is not a monolingual world.
Right.
You can acquire many languages. Theoretically, you can acquire as many languages as you are exposed to.
Right. As much as you can take.
Yes.
Right.
It is a matter of exposure. If from small you hear 3 languages, you don't know that you are hearing 3 languages.
You don't.
But you know that for one item, say a book.
Right.
There is buku, there is book, there is kitab.
Right.
So there are 3 words relating to
one.
Yes.
Right.
Later on, there are 3 words from different
languages.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why if you want to teach your children many languages, start early.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's easier for them to adopt all these things.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about our mother language.
Okay.
So, which is Bahasa Melayu. But there are out there saying that Bahasa Malaysia is Bahasa Melayu, and some people say no, Bahasa Melayu is not Bahasa Malaysia.
Yeah.
So probably you can clear this thing up.
It's terminology.
Okay.
From the academic point of view, there is a language called Malay.
Okay.
That's English, and it becomes Bahasa Melayu when you translate into
Bahasa.
Bahasa.
Right.
So that should be the crux of the matter.
Okay.
That the language spoken by the Malays is called Bahasa Melayu. Yeah. However, politically, when we develop a new country called Malaysia, consisting of so many races, speaking different languages, there was a desire that maybe you want to use another name because people are mistaken that Bahasa Melayu as the national language may belong to just one community
or one race.
Yeah, so they said, okay, let's call another name. In the same way that Bahasa Indonesia. Yeah, but there is another perspective to it. When people from Europe went to America, a lot were English speaking, and then English became a very important language. So when the United States was born, they accepted as the national language, not the American language,
but
the
English.
In Canada, it's not the Canadian language.
No, it's English.
It's English. So Australia, New Zealand. So that is the scientific aspect of it.
I see.
The academic aspect of it. So you can say Malay, Bahasa Melayu, as the national language of Malaysia.
Right.
Yeah. But Bahasa Indonesia is a different category.
Right.
Totally. Indonesia is full of islands with many languages, and they were looking for one language that would unite 300 over
million people.
Yes.
Right.
So they were looking for a simple language that is easy to learn, and has no social implications.
Right.
The biggest number of people in Indonesia are the Javanese.
Okay.
But Javanese is a language full of strata.
Okay.
Once you speak a language, you put yourself in a certain position. Either you are higher or lower than someone.
I see. Okay.
Yes. It's like the caste system in India.
Right. Even languages have their own status.
So they cannot, as much as they would want to, they cannot adopt Javanese as the national language of Indonesia.
Okay.
So they have this slogan: we are fighting for one language, one nation,
one country.
One country, Indonesia.
Right.
Yeah. So negara Indonesia, bahasa Indonesia, bangsa Indonesia.
Okay.
So that's the difference
Between
me.
us,
Yeah, between
Malaysian.
us.
Right.
But personally, I have no objection. You want to call Bahasa Melayu or
Right.
Bahasa Malaysia,
Right.
it's equally okay. But technically, it should be Bahasa Melayu.
Right. So I think what we should call it, it's Bahasa Kebangsaan rather than calling it Bahasa Malaysia.
No, because it's not accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, Bahasa Kebangsaan means national language.
Okay.
Any national language. You have to give a name to that national
Which is
language.
Bahasa Malaysia.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Bahasa Melayu or Bahasa Malaysia depending on the context.
Right. And you were giving me, or giving us the example of Indonesia where they need one language to unite every races, which they have their own languages.
Yes,
but
yes.
here in Malaysia, we are open to, you can still speak Mandarin, even we have vernacular schools out there.
Yes.
So I think it's very fortunate that we have this, but there are issues coming up.
Oh,
So
yes.
first, let's start with the first issue,
Yes.
which we used to have, science and mathematics, we were taught to be taught in English, and then there were some rumors saying that it should be taught in Malay or Bahasa Melayu again.
Yeah.
So going back and forth, they were giving reasons here and there, which I think sometimes it's a bit ridiculous.
Yes.
But there are some logical explanation about it.
You have to accept the fact that the language issue has been
Politicized?
politicized.
Okay.
Yes, politicized. So nobody thinks in terms of real linguistic issues.
Okay.
They are talking in terms of politics.
I see.
So what happens was, to me, that national language system and the national language as a medium of instruction is a good policy.
Okay.
Because in the policy it says from standard 1, you start learning English.
Okay.
Technically, ideally, it should have been, we are producing students who can converse equally well
Right.
in both languages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bilingual students.
Yes, bilingual students. That would be the perfect picture.
Okay.
However, in the implementation, we discover that a proficiency in English
Very low.
was very low.
Very low.
Very low. Yeah. So
Because
that-
I can see that because
Yeah.
my sisters are about your age, Professor.
Yeah.
So like you, they were taught in English
Yes.
back in school, and then when I see my nieces or their children, which back the same school but different kind of system, they can't even
Yes.
do a simple sentence construction in English.
Correct. And I would like to question why.
Yes.
Because from standard 1 to standard 6, that's 6 years.
Right.
From Form 1 to Form 5,
That's 5 years.
11 years of education. How come they cannot even
Produce a
Yes.
good speaking English
Yes.
student.
So there has been something wrong.
Yes.
Maybe in the manner it was taught, maybe in the attitude of students.
Or the teachers probably.
Oh yeah, I mean, people should have done lots of studies.
Okay.
Yeah, on this. But definitely there was something wrong.
Right.
Because we should have arrived at our target,
Okay.
which is a bilingual student after Form 5.
Okay. But we haven't reached that yet.
People with urban backgrounds, maybe good schools.
Okay.
But the majority
Will
no.
not have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Because people don't want to learn
Right.
the language, and that is a sad thing. Because they should accept the idea now that you can no longer be a monolingual. Knowing
Right.
one language alone
It's not enough.
is not enough.
Right.
However, people say, okay, let's just learn English, one
Okay.
language.
Right.
Well, that's not quite correct.
Right.
Because we have things, called language loyalty.
Okay.
And
And we have our own culture.
Yes,
Yeah.
our own culture and all that. So it's a question of having national pride, national identity.
Right.
So we should, while we think English is very important, and I do agree it's important in the international situation,
Right.
in the national situation, we have to give place to the national language. So one shouldn't be talking about this language or that language.
Right.
You know?
Why can't we just have both?
Malay or English. That's not a good approach.
Right.
Why can't we have both?
Right.
Why can't we be good in the national language and good in English? Wonderfully good in both languages.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
We have to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on this matter right here on Hello Malaysia.
My precious little Nita, why did you leave me? How hard I try, my pain does not go away.
Papa! Papa!
My child has become a victim because of me.
Nita!
Pakcik, boleh saya tolong?
We cannot change the past, but we can protect our future if we act now.
Nongkah batasan masa, mengupas isu semasa, menjadi saluran pelbagai suara, segalanya baru dan benar di Berita Bernama TV.
Current issues, latest headlines, illuminating visuals, everything right and now on Bernama News.
And welcome back to Hello Malaysia with me and Professor Dato Dr. Nik Safia Karim. And we were talking about Bahasa Malaysia, or International Mother Language Day, which is celebrated every year on 21st of February. Now, before we went for a bit, we were talking about, why must it be one language or the other?
Yes,
Why can't we have both languages? Now, I can give you an example like in Japan or even Indonesia. People, if they want to do business with them, they have to learn their language because they are very proud of their own language. And some may say that they are so proud of their language they don't even want to learn English. So if you want to do business with us, you will learn our language. So probably that is what we're trying to do, but I don't think that is correct.
No, you can have that stance if you are important, if you are strong, and people bow to you. For example, if you think Japanese technology is very high and you want to learn, and then that is the position of the Japanese, then you do have to learn the language. But I think you have to look from the other side, that it does not mean that if you only use your national language, you cannot prosper.
Right.
You cannot be a modern society. You see, so you take Korea, Japan, China, France, Germany.
Even the Germans.
Yes.
Yeah.
They all have their national languages.
And they're very proud of it.
It. And they are progressive countries. So it does not mean that if you use only your language, that you cannot prosper. Yes, right. On the other hand, if you are a small nation, technological
developing nation, like
developing technological know-how, not so important, and you cannot dictate your terms to other people, then if you say you have to learn my language, who's going to learn your language?
Right. For what purpose?
For what purpose? So you have to be practical. You have to learn other people's languages. The other thing is that for a small nation like Malaysia, we import. We import knowledge. And we import knowledge through the culture that is nearest to us, Western culture. So Western culture comes through Western language. So you have to acquire the language in order to accept and import. That is the practical consideration. So nobody is denying the importance of English in that context. The thing that may be questioned is this, why are we just, giving pride to one language? Can't we learn one or two more other international languages? Arabic, Russian, German, French or whatever. Secondly, it does not mean that you have to neglect your own national language. Within the context of the nation, in certain environment, you are required to use your national language. So if you don't learn the national language at all, then you're not being fair to your national language.
I see. Not being fair for you to be Malaysian.
Yes.
Right.
So to me, if you call yourself Malaysian, you know, you have to at least know,
Right.
you know, the national language. You don't have to be very proficient, you know,
Okay.
but enough to get along.
Right.
But if you think, you know, oh, I speak English very well, and
Right.
so I can survive in this modern world.
Right.
Yeah, you do survive, but where is your national integrity?
Right.
You know,
And
national
nowadays,
pride.
people, especially the youngsters, you know, I speak English, so I have a little bit, you know, standard,
Yeah.
you know, from people out there.
Yeah.
That's what we have
Yeah.
right now.
It's not a very safe attitude.
Yes.
Of course, they will get far, you know,
Right,
very far
right.
with English.
With English.
With English, you know. But I think I would like to see a Malaysian rounded,
Right.
you know, rounded culturally, you know. I mean, they can appreciate Western culture. They can appreciate their
own culture.
and that speaks not just for the Malays, you know. The Chinese can appreciate their own culture.
Right.
The Indians can appreciate their own culture.
Right.
And there is a Malaysian culture too.
Okay. So
Yes.
this issue going back and forth whether math and science should be taught in English or Malay. So what is the conclusion? What is it supposed to be taught? Because they said science and math are, I mean, obviously the theory and everything is in English. It's easier for them to learn if it's English, which I do agree. Because back then, when I was learning and I was in science stream, and my teacher, even though we have already started with Malay language, but my teachers, because they came from that particular time, they still teach us in English, which is easier for us to understand. You know, if we read it from the textbook, it sounds very, very different.
Yeah.
Which I
This
do
is-
agree.
Yeah, this is a debatable issue. We
Right.
will not get people, you know, everybody agreeing
Agree
with
to
you.
that.
But the thing is, one UNESCO study shows that people learn best in their own mother tongue first.
Really?
Yes, they did a
Even
study.
though it's like mathematics, which is
Yes.
like English
Yes.
medium.
Yeah, that is a real scientific study. It
Right.
has been shown that children learn best if they learn first in the
Mother language.
mother language,
Okay.
and then they learn the other thing.
Right.
That's one. The other thing is, you see, what happened in Malaysia to me was a tragedy. Not the policy itself, but the implementation of the policy.
Right.
You know, we've been teaching in one language, and suddenly, somebody high up decided that you should switch. You know, teaching mathematics and science
In English.
in English. You can't do that.
You can't.
You can't. You
Right.
have to do it slowly. First,
Okay.
the teachers
Right. To
must
be
be
educated.
trained
Okay.
in the language. You know, imagine if you learn Arabic for 2 years and then somebody asks you to teach mathematics in Arabic. Can you do that? No, you can't do.
Right.
Secondly, there should be enough textbooks
Okay.
so that the children can learn, including mastering the technical terms.
Okay.
So what happened in Malaysia was it was done in a very, very hurried manner.
Okay.
So there was a lot of protest from the students,
From the teachers.
teachers, yes,
I think from the parents as well.
and from the public, yes, you know, and so it was. They agreed that
Right.
it was not well done. You know,
Right.
not implementation was not good.
Right, but now we have done it like few years, and now they want to go back to the teaching it in Malay. Do you think that will be a good idea? I mean, we have taught it in English for so and so years.
I would say the victims are the students. You know,
Yes.
the policy is all right because we have proven that they go through the Malay language up to Form 6. And then they go to universities overseas. But of course, they went through an English language course. And they are now professors.
Yes.
Professors of mathematics, professors of science.
Right.
Those who came through, you know, the Malay medium.
Right.
But they're proficient in English.
Okay.
That's the key word, you know.
Okay.
So they may have undergone through one medium, you know.
Right.
One medium.
Throughout the school
Throughout the
days.
school. But they learn the English language. And then at the tertiary level, they just switch.
Okay.
And after years, they can, you know,
Speak
express
in English.
equally well.
Right.
Yeah,
But
equally.
but some people would say, you know, learning English at tertiary level will be too late.
Too late if you think you want to speak English at the level of the native speaker.
Right.
But if you are just thinking, you know,
You can go by.
Yeah, you must look at the Malaysian population.
Okay.
You know, as a pyramid with a small group to be highly proficient in English.
Right.
The greater majority should just get by with ordinary English, because they are not going to talk about
Right, they're not going to be
theorems.
literature
Yes,
people.
not mathematical theorems,
Right.
in English, or talking about all sorts of.
Right.
They're just going to talk about everyday life.
So it's not a
Yeah.
problem whether it's going to be taught in English or Malay.
No. But the key is they must be bilingual.
Okay.
So they must know how to explain something, a mathematical issue,
Right.
either in Malay or in English.
Okay, so back to the first story that you told me that when you were in school, or when my sister was in school, everything was taught in English.
Yes.
And they can speak well English, and slowly but surely Bahasa Melayu was put in.
Yeah.
But something went wrong. Do you have an idea what went wrong that the students that came out from school after that could not to say they're very good, but not even proficient in one language?
I can't pinpoint on
Right.
the exact thing, but I think somewhere along our education system, less emphasis was given to
Bahasa English. Right.
Yeah, that was where the problem is. Whereas, we were becoming more modern, more progressive, and dependence on English remained the same, if
Right.
not more.
Right.
So there was the inability, to adjust. I think somewhere along the line, people make mistakes.
Okay.
Leaders,
Right.
I don't know whether it's educational leaders, political leaders, or social leaders,
Right.
or even parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to abolish this mindset where either one language, how do we do this?
First of all, I want to state clearly that it's a wrong attitude,
Okay.
to take that. Okay,
It's either this or
it's
that.
either English or Malay.
Right.
Shouldn't be like that.
Okay.
It must be both.
Okay.
Yeah, it must be both, because each language has a different function to play.
Okay.
So English is a language of knowledge, a language where you talk about abstract things, but Malay is a language for official functions,
Right.
for expressing localized feelings and
Right.
all that, and they don't meet, they don't clash at
Right.
all.
But this issue, I mean, you can see that there's two different sides of things. You can see in the city,
Yeah.
people are talking English more than Malay.
Right.
But back in the villages, they'll speak Malay all the time. So the gap is too vast that I think one day we just could not speak to each other anymore. Do you see that in the future?
Not too frightening.
Okay.
Because everywhere in the world, you will see that happening. I
okay.
mean, you go to London, you speak English.
Right.
And not even standard English.
Right.
Until you go to really formalized, then it will be standard English. Then you go to the countryside, they don't speak anything else but their language.
Okay.
But if you go to Germany, for example, the intellectuals know
People.
how to speak English. But the country people will just speak some form of German.
Right.
Yeah. But it does not make them less clever,
Less German.
or less German.
Right. But I think that's the thing. They think by speaking English we are less Malaysian. That's the idea. They say, by speaking too much of English, you're being less Malaysian.
That is a wrong thing to say.
Okay.
But by saying or championing
One language.
Bahasa Melayu, they are saying these people are
Kuno.
the word? Ultra.
Right.
Yes, ultra,
Right.
which is wrong also.
Okay.
Yeah. So the right thing is to say, okay, there's a place for English, there's a place for Malay.
Okay.
Yeah, and that all people should know this and should
that.
know that.
Right.
But if you are going to be a diplomat, if you are going to present papers at international conferences, your English must be higher quality than the rest of the crowd.
Right.
Yes. But if you want to be in the Malay world, you want to appreciate poetry, you want to appreciate all the cultural aspect, then you have to know the Malay language.
Right.
Otherwise, you have no sense of cultural feelings at
Right.
all.
I think that's what's happening right now, especially
Yes.
in the city.
You're
The
right.
Malay people, now I'm talking about one race first. The
Yes.
Malay people are, I do not want to speak Malay anymore because they have no standard.
Yes,
I
there
wanna
are
speak
people
English.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
So I
right.
think that's a wrong mindset.
Very wrong. Very
Right.
wrong. And then these people, they don't even speak Malay at home.
They don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how is their feeling towards Malay when they don't even use it?
But how? Okay, I can give you an example like myself. My parents they would sometimes, I mean, especially my mother, she would speak Malay with me. But amongst us, the sisters and the brother, we speak English because we can express more in English.
Yes.
So I think by the time, when my sisters have their own children and their children and children, so it will become an English,
Yeah.
language family.
So what we hope is the modern Malay, takes an effort, to understand and appreciate
Right.
things that are Malay, Malay culture, Malay literature, Malay way of life, because that is your past.
Right.
You know,
and it is ourselves.
Yes, that's right. So an effort must be done. For example, how much reading in Malay is done by the average urban Malay?
Right.
Yeah. So you have to make sure, you throw magazines, Malay good. I have said, good Malay magazine, good Malay novels around. Just as you throw, all the good in English.
But we don't have books anymore. Everything is all done using, the electronic gadgets.
Replace books in whatever,
So you download all these books.
Yes.
Okay.
And occasionally make an effort to
speak
Malay, to understand a Malay drama.
Right.
You have to lead the Malay way of life a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Right. We have to go for another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on this matter right here on Hello Malaysia.
Terima kasih. Sama-sama. 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 Sama-sama.
Satu cerita, satu bangsa, satu Malaysia.
And welcome back to Hello Malaysia with me, Sue, and Professor Emeritus Dato' Dr. Nick Safia Karim, an advisor from Linguistic Society of Malaysia. And we're talking about mother language and how we should be proud of our own mother language, but at the same time, do not forget that English is also important. So, before we went for a break, we were talking back and forth, being, English. Why can't we be a bilingual people rather than just, be proud of one language? Because we're trying to look at the Japan or the Germans, which they are very proud of their own language. But we also have it here in Malaysia. We have Vernacular school.
Yes.
We have the Mandarin school. We have the Tamil school, and they're very proud of their own language.
Right.
But they're proud of their own language. It was in the paper where they refused to take other languages in the class. Like, they do not want any Bahasa Melayu or English in the class because they want to maintain, only Mandarin speaking subjects or teaching it in Mandarin or Tamil?
Yeah, I don't agree with that attitude. It's very narrow.
Okay.
I think we respect each
Language.
group, each group, each community's desire to maintain their mother tongue, and we agree that they should be taught if parents want their children. Yeah, but to reject,
Other languages.
especially international languages, national languages, is not practical.
Okay.
If to me, lacking in
National
unity.
Right.
So I don't think we should encourage people or schools who reject
Other languages. Okay.
So while emphasizing our respect for their wish to learn the national language, we should tell them that they are not being very practical.
Okay.
Yes.
So because they are being Malaysia, I mean, in Malaysia, like you mentioned, we have different culture, different races, and I think being one, you said the national language, I think that should be given emphasis as well, even though it's not your mother language, but it should be given emphasis as well.
In fact, some people even say that we should do away with vernacular schools in order to unite the different races in the country.
Which is wrong as well.
No, it to me is a good idea, but I don't think it will be accepted.
Okay.
So you don't make decisions that are harsh and not acceptable.
Okay.
We should do something that will be acceptable to all. So I would like to say that you learn your mother tongue, but the national language is important. International language is important.
Right.
I emphasize international language more than English.
Okay.
Because there are other international languages, but not as important as English.
Okay.
Arabic is very important. Yeah.
Right.
Arabic is one international language, and if you think Japan is doing very well and you want to learn from the Japanese, then learn. The Look East policy has produced, a lot of Japanese-speaking Malaysians.
They have, it has. And by us, let's go back to Bahasa Malaysia. How can we lift it up now that the gap, like I mentioned before, the city is speaking good English, but not people from the villages, and the gap is very far. And at the same time, they're not embracing their own mother language. So how do we uplift?
First of all, it is a very sad thing that the modern Malay, especially who are leaders, Malaysians are very good, our slogan, kepimpinan melalui tauladan, which means you provide leadership by yourself doing it, So if you want to promote the national language, Malay, then speakers of Malay should be
the leaders,
political leaders, social leaders, youth leaders. But the leaders are not displaying different characteristics, which is a very sad thing.
I see.
Yeah, which I would like to see, for example, our leaders appreciating Malay culture, the Malay language, promoting books, which are very good.
I think one of the leaders that I think who really speaks well Malay or Bahasa Malaysia is Datuk Sri Rais Yatim.
Yes.
He speaks very well Malay. Even it intimidates me to just talking to him.
Yeah, he speaks very well.
Right. So I think every leader should be not to say at that par, but at least speak
I
well.
found Tan Sri Rafida Aziz also. She speaks beautiful English and she speaks beautiful
she
Malay.
does. She does.
We want leaders of that caliber.
Right.
Who can be, make us proud when they go overseas.
Right.
But
at the same time
also within.
So by saying that you should, I mean, these people or the leaders should be speaking Bahasa Malaysia when they do interviews.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right, because they break into English a lot of the time, and not necessarily the best English.
It's not. Right.
Yes.
But because some people say, and I do agree, because it's more expressive in English than Malay, because of the imbuhan. Some people would say that.
No, because they don't know the language. That's all. They are
because they don't understand the language.
They are more conversant in English.
Okay.
Because they learn in that language and they are more used to speaking English, and so they feel comfortable. But when they have to learn Malay, and because they are so awkward in the usage of all the prefixes and all that, they make mistakes.
I see. So they're a bit shy to talk.
Yes.
in Bahasa
Yeah.
Melayu.
And also among the ordinary people, this code mixing, bahasa rojak.
Okay.
You just listen to anybody speaking. They cannot start, they cannot even complete
Finish a sentence
in one language. Yes.
I think I am guilty of that. So even you see that as a problem.
It is. You see, you have to learn. You see, we have to decide this is an English language situation.
Okay.
Speak English well. This is a Bahasa Melayu situation. Speak Bahasa Melayu well.
Okay.
That's how it should be done.
Okay, you talk about leaders should display some examples.
Political leadership, social leadership, they are all the same.
How about parents? Parents nowadays are
very bad also.
Right. They would send their children to international schools because they're trying to avoid Bahasa Melayu. So what do you say about that?
I think it's a very bad idea. It's not for the interest of the nation and the future of the nation.
Right.
Future of themselves, yes, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you see? What can you see in the future if we still do this? Do you see Bahasa Melayu dying? Do you see,
I hope not.
Okay.
Languages do die, but they take a long time to die.
Right.
And then so long as there are speakers
who speak the language,
and constantly improving the
themselves.
language. Yes. But there is a Malay expression, tak kenal maka tak cinta.
Okay.
Because you don't get to know the Malay language, as I do. I get to know language. I appreciate the language.
Okay.
Yes. But I also appreciate the English language.
Right. But because you as an example is very good because you throughout schooling days you were speaking English and tertiary level you wanted to take Bahasa Melayu, which is you don't see people do that nowadays. They will prefer to take English literature afterwards, and I think you don't see people like that anymore.
Yeah, because they don't appreciate the science of language. Once you learn the science of the language, every language is the same.
Okay.
It's just that how they arrange different
verbs,
different aspects of the language will make it different. That's all, and then that's the beauty in the language.
Right. So we don't see the beauty of the language.
Yes.
So now, by saying that, we should appreciate or embrace our language, which is Bahasa Melayu.
Yes.
Should the teaching of Bahasa Melayu in school be taught differently?
To me, the teaching of Bahasa Melayu and English, has not been very successful.
Okay.
Yeah, but English is more lucky in the sense that there's so many work done on English by so many countries, who speaks English as their mother tongue, so that they have more material to go to.
Right.
But the teaching of Bahasa Melayu is a bit limited at the moment.
Okay.
We are still experimenting.
Right.
People still have to learn.
Okay. By saying that books, what do you think about books that has been translated into Bahasa Melayu? Because some people, and I think I do agree with this, the beauty of the book, which is written in the language, is not being translated into Bahasa Melayu.
A lot is lost in the translation.
Okay.
Any translation, In fact, if you translate a book into a movie, it's worse. I've seen movies that I've read books, and then you
get frustrated.
Yes, frustrated.
I know. I know how you feel because I read some books like that. They were being. They turn it into a movie. I get very frustrated.
Yes, that's right. It's very different.
Right.
So in the same way, when you translate from one language to the other, not only a lot of things get lost because of the nuances of different languages. Sometimes not the best people translate,
Right.
They may be good in the language, but they don't understand the subject matter.
Right.
Yeah. Or they may be good in the subject matter, but
they don't know how to translate it into Bahasa.
Right.
So what do you think about, because we need to promote Bahasa Melayu. So do you think books that have been translated to Bahasa Melayu should be given a chance to be read?
Books should be written,
Right.
Yeah. It should be written by people who know
the language. Both languages, in a sense.
Yes, and who know the field.
Okay.
So, for example, a biologist, should write books on biology, not somebody else.
Right. Not a translator.
Not a translator.
Right, who doesn't understand what is it all about. Okay, we have to go for another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on this matter right here on Hello Malaysia.
I travel not because I like to travel. I travel so I can say this. What you're looking for is inside of you, and you should be in peace.
from Rawat has been traveling for 40 years, inspiring people around the world to find peace within.
I go and I talk to people, and I present them with the possibility of themselves discover the peace that lies within you.
Catch Bernama Today every weekday from 9 a.m. onwards for the latest news, lifestyle stories, interesting personalities, only on Bernama TV.
Dibelenggu kebankrapan semuanya bukan pilihan. Saya pernah cuba dibantu, namun saya tidak hiraukannya kerana saya merasakan MDI akan bertindak kejam terhadap saya. Sehinggalah kebankrapan mula mengganggu hidup saya. Saya hilang punca untuk meneruskan kehidupan. Akaun saya dibekukan. Apa nasib keluarga saya? Selama ini saya menyangka MDI zalim yang membangkrapkan saya. Ternyata sangkaan saya meleset sama sekali.
Jabatan Insolvensi Malaysia, bukan kami yang membangkrapkan anda. Jangan takut atau risau untuk tampil ke depan. Berilah kerjasama agar kami dapat membantu anda. Layari www.insolvency.gov.my.
And welcome back to Hello Malaysia, and we're talking about, loving your mother language, but at the same time, being bilingual is the best, or, learning more languages is the best thing. So right before we went for a break, we were talking about how Bahasa Malaysia should be given a chance or given a priority rather than just, it's just, another language. And now, the problem with all these languages is that the attitude that we have towards the language, which is very negative nowadays.
Yes.
I'm not talking about one specific language. It's about every languages.
Yes.
So what do you think that we should do?
First of all, people don't care about language. They don't know. They don't care about speaking well.
Okay.
It's just the ability to transfer message. It's only one aspect of communication. You must transfer message in a beautiful way.
Okay.
Yeah, which at the moment people are not that interested.
They're
People
not.
don't play with language anymore.
No.
I look at advertisements. Advertisements used to be beautiful,
right?
But now it's just words.
It's almost poetry.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
But some people say, I don't get the message out there with poetry. I would rather have a straightforward language. What do you think about that?
No. Language must come with beauty.
Okay.
And then language is very emotive. People have very emotional attachment to language. Either they love it or they don't care about it. So I would like to say, please love, your national language. Please love your own language, because that sort of emotional attachment is very important.
Okay.
You must have that sort of feeling towards it.
Right.
And then if you don't love a language, then you don't do anything about it. In fact, you destroy it in the process because you don't care how you use it.
And you use it less and less.
Yes.
Right. And you forget about the language.
That's right. Because if you like a language and you use a language, you even dream in that language.
Right. We sing in the language.
Yes. I remember I spent 6 months in the US and I was speaking English, American English all the time.
Right.
I was even dreaming in English, and I said, this is not fair to my national language.
Okay.
Then I met 2 Indonesian students and we spent a whole hour
just speaking Bahasa. Right,
yes.
right. So, the attitude that we need to change, and you mentioned that, the attitude comes, we need it to be coming from the politicians, the leaders, now the parents. What kind of suggestions can you give to these people?
First, you have to display your love, your loyalty to language. I'll take just a few minutes to explain. I went to on a government delegation to have a meeting with the Japanese side, And when we arrived at the airport, we were welcomed by the Japanese officers who were American trained. They speak English very well. They took us to dinner and we had good conversations in English. The next morning, when we started our meeting, this English-speaking Japanese spoke Japanese.
Really?
To me, who understood English, So I have to wait for his speech to be translated into English, and then I replied, and then my speech in English was translated into
Japanese.
A lot of time wasted. But the thing is, the Japanese officer was giving national pride.
Right.
Was giving respect
to the language. Okay.
Their national language. Time makes no difference. You know,
Okay.
that is important.
Right.
We should have that spirit.
That
for us.
attitude.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know, like you mentioned, time will be a lot
Yes.
spent just translating,
Yes.
but the pride will be there.
Yes.
Okay. But I don't think we have that attitude. So
No.
how do we instill? And I don't know. Probably we are too late to instill that kind of attitude.
Oh, it's not too late. It's
Not too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the right attitude. For example, I've seen these Malaysian leaders speaking to an audience.
Okay.
All they are 98% Malaysian who understood. But he saw 3, Mak Saleh.
Okay.
And then he
Started
spoke
speaking in English.
For 3 people
Right.
versus the 99%.
Right.
Yeah.
But because I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think because we have this pride, or we are proud to say it in English than Bahasa Melayu or Bahasa Malaysia.
I suppose misplaced pride. You know?
Okay.
It's
Because you're not
Ah.
English people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
so,
right.
so the attitude needs to be changed. and-
We have to inculcate first a love of the language, appreciation of what is beautiful in the language.
Right.
Secondly, a love for the national language in the concept of national pride,
Okay.
and also a respect. It may be, understanding of English.
Okay.
Because to appreciate English poetry,
Right.
English novel,
Right.
it's a very good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think our ordinary Malaysians can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't. We cannot. Unless you have, like you said, you need to love certain language for you to appreciate the language.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing that we do not love our language. We're just going by with Bahasa Malaysia just to go by.
Yes, that's right. We are this present world, it's not a world that goes into poetry or drama.
Right.
Yeah, we are so, what do they call it? Dalam bahasa Melayu, kebendaan.
Okay.
Just basic needs,
Right.
success,
Just to go by.
Yes.
Right. And do you think that we need to, give like some rules and policies, like the leaders should be speaking, when they're in parliament or in court, they have to speak Bahasa Malaysia. So probably we need to put it like places you need to speak Bahasa Malaysia just to make sure
I
that
hope not, but if we can inculcate that feeling, because if you force upon people, if they don't want to do it, they don't
They
do
can't
it.
do
Yes,
it,
you don't do it through force.
Right.
But if you can persuade people, for the general improvement of the nation,
Right.
of our future, that a love for the national language, without denying the importance of English.
Yes.
That must be emphasized.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be given out again and again. So we are almost to the end of the program, and usually I'll give the floor to my guests to advise or probably say something to the audience in terms of our topic for today, which is Mother Language Day.
Yeah.
So probably Dato', Professor.
First of all, today's world has no place for what do you call it, silly things or simple things like language. But I want to say it's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
So learn to love it, learn to appreciate it, and learn to accept the fact that it has a place in this world.
Right.
You can go after money, you can go after all the wealth and richness that you can get, but deep down, this little soft feeling that comes with language, the ability to say things in beautiful ways, and to attach, a certain loyalty to the country through the love of the language.
Okay, I think that's beautiful. Okay, so thank you, Professor, for being with us and talking about our topic for today. And thank you so much for tuning in to Hello Malaysia. And until we meet again real soon, with that, I'm Surati Sanusi. Goodbye.